On today's Locked On Canadiens, Team Canada wins Nick Suzuki's first game in which he scores, but did he mean to? Plus, we've got all kinds of mailbag questions. It's really such a great time to be a Team Canada fan and a Montreal Canadiens fan. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens, also known as the Nick Suzuki Fan Club. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, all thanks to you. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And Ian is really making the sacrifices. He is taking time off from his capitalism to watch all of these hockey games so that he can give us in-depth analysis, whereas I watch the replays and then kind of hope that I got the full experience of the game. Ian, how was Team Canada's first game?
Good. It was really fun. And, you say it's a sacrifice. These first 2 days have not been sacrifices. The next few are. They are 6 a.m. start times, back-to-back days. In fact, on Friday, I'm watching 2 games at 6 a.m. I don't know how my brain is going to focus on one of them, let alone 2. So we're going to do our best. But look, Canada, they looked pretty good. They looked about what we had hoped they would be, especially against a Czech team that was a pretty tough opponent. There's lots to unpack in this one. Of course, Nick Suzuki scores. We'll talk about that. But I think there are more underlying numbers that show that even outside of the goal, he had a pretty strong game.
And we will get right into that in our first segment. And then later on, we have the mailbag, as we do every Friday. We've got some more questions about Juraj Slavkovsky, I think he's the big name of the week. I think we can safely say that right now. And then we talk about, things like chemistry versus leadership. We've got lots of fun questions from all of you guys. So let's get into that game. Let's talk about Canada as a whole and then get into the Nick Suzuki of it.
Yeah, I thought, what we talked about was that potentially Canada was going to be shuffling their lines a lot through this game. That didn't happen at all. They were practically the same team the entire game. The only change being Josh Morrissey ended up getting some kind of injury late in the first period. He left, didn't come back. They said they're hoping it's not serious, so we'll take them at their word with that. But in IIHF play, you can dress 7 defensemen. You dress 7 or 20 skaters total. So if you wanted to dress 8 defensemen and 12 goalies, or 12 goalies and 12 forwards, you could do that. But yeah, so it's not so much a problem, but it could become one should the injuries pile up. But yeah, I thought Canada was what we expected them to be. Connor McDavid was fantastic, 3 points in the game. Suzuki, I thought, had his moments where he was creating. It was a shame he set up what seemed like it was going to be the first goal of the game by taking the puck away from a Czech defender, getting the puck over to Nathan MacKinnon, and as MacKinnon was shooting it, Suzuki's stick got caught in the guy's skates. He fell down. It was the right call. It was a trip. I know people were like really upset about it, but the letter of the law, Suzuki can't have his stick in between that guy's skates. Did it have any impact on the play? No. That way you can have some kind of frustration about it, but everyone's going to have a different look at how that played out. But look, I thought Canada, they showed up, they did what they needed to. Their second power play of the game was Crosby to McDavid to MacKinnon. It's just not fair. There's not another country in the world who can do that kind of thing together. USA's close, but that is just 3 first overall picks to one another.
3 of who are going to be going down in history as some of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Yeah. Again, I go back to how I felt after the first Four Nations game where Canada essentially did that same thing, right? It was that same power play goal. And I felt elated. I was like, wow, I can't believe we have this again. And then immediately was like, Gary Bettman, you took this away from us for a long time. Jail forever. I don't know how else to feel about it other than anger. But I will couch that for now in saying that that MacKinnon goal on the power play was one of the funniest goals of the tournament so far.
Yeah, I honestly, I cannot believe how good he is. Also, we are going to have next week. We've already started to book our guests. We're gonna have Kay come back, and we're gonna ask her how crazy Nathan MacKinnon actually is. But I wanted to know how you felt like Nick kept up with one of the best players right now, currently the best player playing.
Yeah, I think at times Suzuki deferred a little too much to Nathan MacKinnon, which that's a natural thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's Nathan MacKinnon. Anybody would defer to him. I think that's what made, having Sid next to MacKinnon for so long good, because, Sid doesn't feel like he has to defer to anybody, and it benefits both of those players. Nick's going to have to learn to get a little bit more selfish. He did score in this game. It was on a weird line change where MacKinnon went off and McDavid came on. So I don't know how it's possible that even in that moment he might have gotten a slight upgrade at center on that line. It's, again, the embarrassment of riches on this roster is not lost on me. It was a deflection off of what looked like a McDavid pass to Suzuki in front of the net. It looked like Suzuki was trying to take it and go behind the net back to McDavid so he could come around the back with speed and go to the far side. But instead he just deflects it into the net. Probably one of the more accidental goals that Nick Suzuki has ever scored. Yes. Doesn't matter. They don't draw pictures on the score sheet. Like, I don't care that it was an accident. He was in front of the net. Like, that's, if you want to score, you're going to go there. But generally speaking, as far as chance generation, this comes from Jay Fresh. At all situations, and the data, by the way, is from Dmitry Filipovich. Connor McDavid lapped the field with chances controlled with 14. So that's chances created by himself and then chances that he assisted on. So he made a play that set up a chance. He had 14, and tied for second with 6 was Brandon Hagel and Nick Suzuki. So
that's incredible.
A strong game from those guys. I think the more they work together, the more they play, they'll sort of build that muscle and that chemistry amongst each other. But the numbers make it seem like that was, and the eye test matches it as well. I liked what I saw from Suzuki. He has to play a much more simplified role playing with those guys, which is excellent. So I liked what I saw against what is probably maybe the toughest, depends where you place Switzerland into that conversation, but maybe the toughest team they'll play in the preliminary round.
Yeah, which, Switzerland is up next, I believe. The Canadiens can't take them too lightly. They are one of the teams that are favored to be a dark horse upset team, much like Slovakia, for very many reasons. I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Nick Suzuki is not just a Canadian Olympian. Nick Suzuki now has Olympic goals. He has an Olympic goal. He's
on the board.
That's our guy. That's my guy. That is my favorite Montreal Canadian. So I'm just so excited about it. I want to talk about Jordan Binnington because I refuse to be convinced, and you feel a little bit better about him than I do after the first game.
Yeah. I feel like I was alone in this a little bit. I'm sure there are some people who might have been coming around, but really there was one play where he was kind of hugging his post and a puck came from the boards and it went through him, bounced around in the paint and rolled away on the far post before Binnington even moved. That was a weird one, but it was one where you're like, man, you don't even know where it is. That's kind of scary. But other than that, I mean, is he scrambly in his net? Yeah. He was in that overtime in the championship game at Four Nations too.
I think he just looks like that.
That's just who he is, right? Like what's wrong with your face? Nothing. That's just who he is. Like, I don't want to, and to John Cooper's credit, he continues to put his confidence in this goalie. He was asked after the game, when did you decide you were going to start Binnington in this game? He said, oh, probably about 358 days ago. So like give Binnington credit. He's rewarding that loyalty, right?
Yeah.
He 26 save shutout. I watched the Americans play later. Hellebuck gave up a goal to the Latvians 1-on-5. Like, it was his first within the first 5 shots of the game, and he's given up a goal. He didn't get a lot more tests after that because they were playing Latvia. But like this did a lot to build my confidence in this guy playing the big moments for this team.
Mm-hmm.
I know others will not be convinced. and it won't, like, he could not give up a goal and have a gold medal hanging around his neck at the end of this, and people will go, yeah, but they should have started Kemper. Or they they should have started Thompson. And to me, like, I'm trying to look at this through the lens that maybe John Cooper is, and I'm saying this goalie can play with this team. He proved it in that first game against a tough opponent.
He also proved it last year, which is, again, that 358 days ago or whatever. I'm just going to say one thing is, if he has a gold medal hanging around his neck a week and a half from now, then I will be convinced, right?
Yeah.
I might doubt him up until that moment, though, because
and we're making a Hall of Fame case for him at that point, which
I know,
we talked about
right?
off mic, and it kind of makes us sick to our stomach. But like, Four Nations winner, Olympic gold, Stanley Cup, like, that's the stuff that Hall of Fame cases are made of.
Unfortunately, the Hall of Fame doesn't care if you're likable or if you have like a
it's
really
not the Hall
invisible
of good guys, man. It's the Hall of Fame.
So we'll see. On that note, we're going to move on to our mailbag. You guys had so many good questions for us, and we really love you for it. So we're going to reward you with some answers up next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. For example, I like to watch ski jumping, people flying through the air, but the only time I get to see that is during the Olympics and the drama of curling matches that start like slow and sometimes it gets intense really fast. Hockey games feel different right from the opening face-off, especially now with the best on best happening, and even niche events become must-watch when you are fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. And that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Here on Locked On Canadiens, we always use Game Time to go to games. We're going to another one. We went to one earlier this year. We went to a couple last year, and now we're going to another one a little bit later this year, all thanks to Game Time. And we really love it because all you have to do is you pull up the Game Time app, you pick an upcoming game, and you get tickets locked in within minutes, literally minutes. Ian does it all the time. He'll be like, I got our tickets. It's also great to be able to see the view from your seat and you know what you're getting into. And there's zone deals that stand out. So you kind of talk about where you want to sit, which is what we had decided beforehand, and Game Time will pick the seats for you and you will save. There's great last minute options and you get solid prices. And what we love is that there's no hidden fees at checkout, so you know exactly what you're getting into. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA, NHL, all kinds of event tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Canadiens, and thank you for making us your first listen today. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It's all thanks to you guys. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everyday Club. You'll get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Canadiens, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You're also going to get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everyday Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. We're hanging out in there. Come hang out with us. So go to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Ian, let's talk about our mailbag. What do our incredible listeners have for us today?
Lots. Let's jump in. Alexander Christian gets us started. Hi, guys. Hughes and Gorton have clearly prioritized locker room culture and a refreshing change from the Bergevin era. As the Habs push towards contention, how much should management weigh chemistry and leadership when making roster decisions? Players like Anderson, Gallagher, and Xhekaj have uncertain futures, but seem integral to the team's vibe. What's the risk of losing that intangible element? Love the show as always. Thank you for what you do. I've been casually planning on a trip to a playoff game, looking at the Victoire Fleet game in April. they were hoping that we would do the same. So maybe you'll be around then to go hang out with our friends there. But look, let's get to the question here. I think it matters a lot.
Yes.
I think we joke all the time about the term like the glue guy, right? The guy that you have in the room that's just good for being in the room. There's good examples of that. There's also bad examples of that, right? Like I look at oh gosh, now I can't even think of his Ryan Reeves in Toronto, right? Like they brought him in to soften the room and to be the enforcer and to be vibes guy, and the vibes were terrible. And he was, the second he left, he was talking crap about everything that was happening there. So like there are good players to do that with and bad ones. It's why on the last episode I stumped really hard for the concept of bringing Anderson back at the end of this contract, because he is that kind of veteran presence. The vibes are there. The guys love, I think they call him Randy. Like they love Randy. I kind of see it. I think there's a way that you can keep those guys around, but it cannot be the only reason you're keeping them around. And I think that's where a lot of teams get into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the player has to have talent, but the Montreal Canadiens have so far, knocking on wood, so far been really successful at this. Every person they have in that room will play for each other. The egos are checked at the door. And it's not to say they don't struggle. It's not to say that they don't disagree on things. But at the end of the day, everybody is buying into playing for each other, listening to Marty. And I think, the fact that he's so open about taking direction and taking suggestions from his team as well is really great. I think it's a group effort. I think the management only brings in people who will fit in. I think the team itself kind of reinforces that. And I think the coaching staff is really, really instrumental to this. And I think you kind of, like you said, you don't bring in a guy to change the vibe of a locker room, because that never works. You have to bring in people who already fit in. When you want to change the vibe of the locker room, sometimes you don't need to make wholesale changes. I mean, the Montreal Canadiens went through a rebuild, right? There's a lot of guys here. Most of the guys here were not there for the last time. I believe Brendan Gallagher's the only guy left, if I'm not mistaken, who went to the Stanley Cup final, or Caden Goalie was there too.
Nick Suzuki,
Cole Caulfield. Yeah, but those are core guys.
Jake
I'm talking
Evans.
about Jake Evans. I'm very, very confused right now.
No, we were all locked inside. You can be forgiven for
it
forgetting
was a long
that time
ago.
in history.
It was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like they, like that team really played for each other. And so the following year, when a lot of the leadership or a lot of the people who were responsible for that left, there was a vacuum, and the coaching staff and the management at the time were not able to replicate it, right? So it's so important. But what I think is really, really important is you can't bring in an untalented guy just for vibes. You have to make sure that the person is able to play on the ice with your team. Yeah. But I just want to point to teams like, I don't know, like the New York Rangers were floundering, and what did they do about it? They got JT Miller.
They made it worse.
Right? Like and that's partly why I'm sometimes concerned when some names get thrown around coming to Montreal, is because they're going to throw off the vibe of the locker room. Anyways, I rambled a lot. I misremembered the Stanley Cup final run, but I guess it's time to move on to our next question.
Yeah, let's do it. Next question here from our buddy Robert Rice. Who's responsible for switching off the standard play camera to behind the net / behind the blue line during play in Olympic hockey, and why do they hate the audience so much? So I know, because this question came in as soon as the MacKinnon power play goal was scored, because by the way, I believe the Olympics, there's like one broadcast, and it's really just the commentators for each network talking over it. And Eddie Olczyk on the US broadcast was like, we don't have control over what they show us. Like they're that is what it is. Yeah. And the MacKinnon power play goal, you could barely see it because they were filming it with a camera that was at the other net. It was filming like forward from the other. And I was angry because I and I know I am alone in this. I like when a team is on the power play, and from time to time they'll use the camera above that net. I think it's a fun way to look at the play and look at the shooting lanes and the passing lanes from time to time. You can't use it all the time. But to go from the other end was nuts. We basically missed the goal because there were so many guys in between the net and the camera, where it was just like you see MacKinnon swipe it at something and then they start celebrating. I was like, this is terrible. It was a terrible choice. Short answer here, Robert, I don't know who has that decision, but I agree with you that in that moment, that was the wrong call. Because it was the same on NBC, on NBC in the States. It was the same one.
Yeah.
So like it was not good.
It's the same thing we all saw, and I think we're kind of gonna have to get used to it because we're in for like 10 days of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Um,
well. There
yes,
could be worse things like not watching the NHL players at the Olympics. So perspective, we'll
exactly.
bring it all back.
And there's sometimes some cool things like the ice dancing competition, like they showed an alternate angle at one point, right? So like
Yeah.
you'll see it, just maybe not in the moment that you want to see it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna move on to our next segment where we have plenty more questions from you guys, and that's coming up in just a moment. This episode is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled QUO, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's quo.com/lockedonnhl. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, what have we got? We had plenty of mailbag questions. And also, I want to say something to a longtime listener, Francois Tardif. Thank you so much for providing us with so many suggestions for segment ideas and mailbag questions.
They're almost too big for mailbag questions. Like we
Yeah.
need to give those the moments that they need to breathe.
Which we will, and potentially with guests too next week.
Absolutely. There's a lot of downtime.
Yes.
Look, so let's jump into it. It's time for the Slavkovsky Love Fest. It's just it is what it is. Patrick Damp, Locked On Penguins. Are you excited or super duper excited about Juraj Slavkovsky's performance for Slovakia? And then I'll pair that up with our buddy Randy Hansen. Can it be possible that Slavkovsky will be the leading scorer of all the Habs in the Olympics? We all saw him just get off to that sort of start against Finland. Are you super excited or super duper excited, Laura?
I cannot contain my excitement. I
It
cannot.
it was incredible, and I think what I'm about to say leads into why I think Randy, the question Randy asked about him being the leading, can he be the leading scorer for the Habs in the Olympics? Not only, like, I think going in before that game against Finland, that was the most likely scenario, right? Because like Kapanen's not even a regular player for Finland. Suzuki, while great, he's not going to be put in the same situations as Juraj Slavkovsky.
The offense is going to flow through other guys.
Yeah. Whereas in Slovakia,
everything flows through Slavkovsky.
Slav is the alpha, man. Like that's his team, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, like when Tatar is done playing, like I think the C is his. Like he's gonna be the leader for Slovakia, and they'll be better for it. Like I mean, they're great now. I love Tatar. I loved Tatar when he was in Montreal. I think it's wild that nobody thought he would be worthy of an NHL job at this point in his career. Like I just think he left the league too soon. So yeah, I think we're both over the moon about the start that he has to this tournament and just what is potentially on tap. He's got 9 goals. He needs 15 to stand alone for Slovakia as the most goals by an NHLer at the Olympics. So he potentially could do it this time. When you think about how he had 7 the last time as a 17-year-old, maybe he's able to replicate that here.
But last year he played all the games. Sorry, last time he played all the games, right? Like this is contingent of him at least attaining the medal round.
Right. Like get it. Right. So it's not like it could happen, but before his career is over, he will be the most accomplished goal scorer for Slovakia at the Olympics.
Yes.
Which is just really fun to be able to say out loud. All right, we'll move on. Next question here from Megan. My name is Megan, and I love listening to the show. I started watching the NHL in the playoffs last year and followed very closely by watching many different podcasts in the network. We appreciate that. I followed the offseason closely, not ready to take the NHL out of my brain. Definitely an ADHD hyperfocus, which Laura would understand, as would I. I have many hobbies that I picked up and gave up on because I thought they were going to be my new personality, and they were not. So it's okay. When the season started up again, I chose to attach my loyalty to the Habs. My roommate loves them, and I love that I can listen to the game radios in French. Since then, I have been a hardcore fan and keep up to date every day with your podcast and any YouTube channel that covers them. We love that. Thank you for choosing the Habs, and thank you for choosing us. We really appreciate that. The question: I saw that the KHL added their goalies to the hardest shot contest of their AHL or their All-Star competition. If you haven't seen it, it's incredible.
It's
Go
so
watch
good.
it.
It's so
funny. They should not be doing that, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It was the best thing ever. Goalies in full gear, just trying to get a shot off. I think if our All-Star competitions don't already have that, they definitely don't. They should definitely add it. It's quite fun to watch. Who out of the NHL goalies do you think would have the hardest shot? Or who out of the Habs would have the hardest shot? Thank you, Megan, for the very thoughtful piece of mail. We really appreciate hearing from that. They used to do goalies doing the fastest skater event, and then I think one of them fell, so they stopped doing it.
It was really funny because they had to do it in full gear.
Yeah, which I'm just like, maybe just let him take the pads off. Like, I'm fine. Like, I don't know. I when he went into the board, like, he fell, like, completely wiped out. I'm like, yeah, that's never happening again.
Yeah, and then we never saw it again.
Who in the league would have the harder shot?
Oh, that's a tough one. I honestly like the Habs one for me. I feel like is going to be Sam Montembeault just because of the way he's built.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree or not.
I think Dobish is the tallest. I think he'll be able to get more leverage. He'll be able to lean on his stick a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it to Dobish out of the three Habs goalies.
Yeah, I would say Vasilevsky would win the hardest competition.
That's a great pick.
Shot. Yeah.
And also, whatever they decide to do the All-Star game again, which who knows because of how many international things they're going to be doing. I hope they do that. I really do. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Just like you have like competitions for like skaters, and then you have just like different competitions for goalies, because whenever you see All-Star game like goalies, they'll do something like just in the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like just do other stuff where goalies can participate, but like in full gear, it's really funny.
Yeah. No, totally. All right, next question. This comes to us from Ted. The other day, you made reference to Julian McKenzie's book, Black Aces, which made me wonder which hockey-related book that isn't the game is your favorite. I recently finished Hunter Ryan Singh's One Game at a Time, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. That does sound amazing. I love Hunter Ryan Singh. I will be looking into that.
It is on my TBR list.
Yeah. Which book would you recommend to a fellow Habs fan? Again, not a Ken Dryden title. That's cheating. Enjoy the show and keep us Ole free, Laura. Ted, I'm mad that you made me read that, but I guess it's fair. It's fair play. Laura, what's your book you'd recommend?
So there's a few. Obviously, Black Aces by Julian McKenzie. Like the reason we're talking about it is it's a really good book. It's just out. There's events going on all over where he's doing readings and signings. He is a good friend of our show, but that's not why we're plugging it. Like the book is actually really good and you learn a lot, especially right now, Black History Month. A lot of, if you read that, maybe you'll get our trivia questions like without having to look anything up. The book that I really like, and I don't necessarily recommend the author as a person because I believe like later on he's gotten into some like unsavory kerfuffles online. But there's a book called Money Players by Garrett Joyce. And I could be wrong on the kerfuffles or whatever, or maybe he's just like an old school writer, not like an analytics minded person or whatever. But I thought that had a lot of great insight into how the business of hockey works. And I found that it opened my eyes to like a different side of the game. And it was when I was still blogging before I started podcasting. So it just gave me a different perspective. If you're a Habs fan specifically, and you haven't read Lions in Winter, I think that's a good one as well. It's like the game. It's like a classic. It's an old school. It talks a lot about that kind of stuff. But those are the books that I would recommend to Habs fans specifically.
Yeah, I mean, my book is not about the Habs, but I would recommend it to Habs fans, any hockey fan. I have a copy of it here. Taro Lives, Confessions of the Sabres Hoaxter. It's written by Paul Wieland. It's sort of an autobiography. He's the guy who came up with the Taro Sugimoto bit for the Buffalo Sabres. It's really just an incredible look at a guy who really enjoyed life. He recently passed away a few years ago. Just a really incredible guy. He did lots of fun stuff. Like he wrote a fake letter from President Ronald Reagan saying that the Buffalo Sabres were America's team, and in doing so violated 2 federal laws. Like you're not supposed to do that. There was hoaxes about the Sabres having the Goodyear blimp fly around in their arena during games, just because like the way they shot it made it look like it was huge, but it was really just a small like little blimp that was flying around. And I always come back to this line if you're looking for a reason to be sold on the book. He says the reason hoaxes work is that we want to believe in things and people that we see and hear. Thank God most of us are not cynics, just everyday human beings who want to believe in the efficacy of the world around us.
Yeah.
That's how things like Taro Sujimoto happen. One of my favorite books of all time is Taro Lives: Confessions of the Sabres Hoaxter by Paul Wieland. So check that one out. All right.
Also share that you were very burnt out from reading, and that was the thing that pulled you back in.
Yeah, I was. I have a quasi English degree, which was just like you read a massive book every week and talk about it, and it's just like I gave up on reading for a long time. So that did help. It's really excellent. If you can find a copy, it's out of print, unfortunately, but if you can find a copy, well worth reading. All right, we have a couple more to get to here. I know we're running close on time. This one's from Bill Van Vagel, our buddy Bill. Hey crew, long time no write. I hope all is well. I have both a question and a suggestion. First one, a question. If the team decides that Kirby Dach is doing well enough on the top line, do they change focus and trade for another player position of value to the team? If so, who should they target? And as a suggestion, as an elementary school teacher, I was inspired for a daily segment during the Olympic break. We create a Montreal Canadiens alphabet. What we do with it, I have not decided yet. That's a great idea. We should do votes on that, actually.
Yeah.
Put out what we think A should be. I think Reddit does this from time to time. Like different subreddits will do this. I think we should do that. But what do you think of that, of Kirby Dach, if he works out on the top line? Like, what do they look for now?
We talked a little bit about it in another episode. Like they think a third pairing D. Because like we talked about, this is not going to be the year that they make a splash unless somebody who's a no-brainer becomes available that they need to snap up now for the future. Yeah. So I think that the focus will be their defensive depth.
Yeah, I think that's about right too. I think a reliable veteran defenseman that they can trust to do a lot of different things is the kind of guy that they would fall out of their shoes to go after. All right, we have 2 more questions. One of them we won't get to. Robert Morris asked us about officiating. I do want to cover this in the topic, so we will get to this next week. So thank you for sending in the question. And our final question from Joel Woods. Hi, Laura and Ian. Love the podcast. My girlfriend and I started watching hockey last year. And one of the ways we started getting to know the Habs players better was to rate all of their walk-in outfits posted before each game. We know everyone now, but we still do our outfit reviews as part of our pregame routine. Who are your picks for best and worst dressed Canadians? Suzuki takes the cake for us with his nice coats, and we love how Hudson always looks like he's a very sharply dressed child on his way to some sort of middle school graduation. Mm-hmm. Our pet peeves are too tight suit pants, Caulfield, Bolduc, and Dach, and players who wear their tux too far off their heads, Evans and Demidov. Interested to hear your thoughts. Let's start with the best dressed. Who do you have there?
I hadn't noticed that about Demidov. Okay. The thing about Nick Suzuki I think is really important is that he really understands his body and he really gets things fit and cut right. Like fit is so important for fashion. That's why he looks so good all the time. Yeah. I think that Arbor Xhekaj, I'm not saying he's the best dressed, but I like the way he dresses because it is very, very, in tune with his own personality. Like you can tell that's what Arbor Xhekaj wants to wear, not what he thinks he should wear.
He dresses like a new age Bond villain. Like there was one, he had like a stripe, like a red and dark blue striped suit with a matching like wide brimmed hat. I was like, yeah, this dude knows he's a heel. Yeah, I completely agree there on Arbor.
I like Noah Dobson is not a bad dresser, but I think he just looks the same all the time and doesn't really care about the fit and stuff, like, which is crazy because I think he can put off a lot. Like he could pull off a lot of stuff. It's uninspiring, right? That's Noah Dobson. And then who else did I really, really like? I actually do like some of Cole Caulfield's outfits.
Yeah, I think Cole deals with a lot. Like if you look at a lot of the USA guys, they all love the over-tailored, really tight suit.
Yes.
Cole kind of falls victim to that. Yeah. Honorable mention to our guy Patty Laine.
Yes,
that guy, he's the best dressed maybe in the league. Like we just don't think about it anymore because we don't get to see him, unfortunately. But He's my guy in a lot of different questions that get asked. He's also my guy in this
one. Is that it for our questions today?
That's it. We ran long. Let's hit our trivia and head out of here.
Yeah, but I do want to say, Francois, your questions are coming up next week.
Also, you texted me before the show. Do you want to complain about Montreal driving again or no?
Yes. Oh my God, this is the second time that I do this in like 3 weeks. Like, what is wrong with everyone? Literally every single time I get on the 20, there's an accident. Why are people driving like this? I do not understand. It is winter out. Like, please take care. And hopefully nobody like got seriously injured, but every single day, it doesn't matter. If I get on the 20, there's an accident there.
Yeah. It's tough. I don't know what to tell you. Whenever I've been in Montreal, I've driven for all of like 10 seconds, parked my car, and never got back in it until I left. So, which is the way to go. I'm not a big car guy.
Yes.
All right. Let's leave that there. Let's hit our trivia and head out of here. Yesterday's question, as a reminder, all of our February questions are in honor of Black History Month. So we are tackling the Black players throughout NHL, women's hockey history, international hockey history. We're trying to cover all of our bases here. It was a player path. It was the New York Rangers, the Phoenix Coyotes, the Calgary Flames, the Atlanta Thrashers, and the Montreal Canadiens. Who is this guy, Laura?
It's Nigel Dawes.
It is Nigel Dawes. The answer was given to us correctly by, you guessed it, Valkyrie NS. Thank you for playing along. Your streak remains intact. We really appreciate that. Today's question, also in honor of Black History Month, here's another player path. New Jersey Devils, Atlanta Thrashers, Winnipeg Jets, Chicago Blackhawks, Dallas Stars, Chicago Blackhawks again, Ottawa Senators, Philadelphia Flyers. I'm going to do that one more time because it's a long one. New Jersey Devils, Atlanta Thrashers, Winnipeg Jets, Chicago Blackhawks, Dallas Stars, Chicago again, Ottawa, Philadelphia. If you have the answer, put it in the comments below this video. Send it to us any way you know how, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of the show.
Absolutely. And we want to thank you all for tuning in today to Locked On Canadiens. Obviously, on Monday, we'll have more updates from the Olympics and anything that comes up. And we have some special guests coming up next week. So make sure you're subscribed to and you follow Locked On Canadiens so you get all the latest episodes. You can find us all over social media. We're on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. You can find me at The Active Stick. You can find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you who are on video, we're sending you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure that you make your second listen of the day NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. During the Olympics, they still have game night. They're covering all the games, and we will feature on those episodes as well. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you on Monday. Unless something huge happens, then you'll see a bonus episode. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.